This is not going to be my normal video. I want to talk about this. This is the method for more creativity, deeper learning, and meaningful productivity. But while I named it, I certainly did not create this method. This is how writers, artists, and scholars like Leonardo da Vinci or Mark Twain, Charles Darwin, Isaac Newton have sown the seeds of their ideas for centuries. And it requires no special apps or notebooks or spreads or setups or anything like that. If you're like me, and modern productivity systems like bullet journaling, Notion templates, or second brains have left you feeling more confused and less organized than when you started with them, give me to the end of this video, and I will show you how one notebook and a very few simple guidelines can help you think more clearly, learn more deeply, and vastly increase your creativity. Let's go. I call this system the Grail method, in part because I think it's the holy grail for creatives, but mostly it's because of this. This is a replica of the Grail diary from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's what you're going to see me working on in the background of this video. But I bring this up because this prop is not only the thing that introduced me to this method of creativity, it's also perhaps the best example of it in pop culture. See, in the movie, this book represents the lifetime accumulation of Henry Jones's knowledge on the legend of the Holy Grail. Every note of his research is scribbled inside, with mementos and photos and items from his travels tucked between worn, creased pages. He carries it with him everywhere and is constantly reviewing it, looking for new clues and connections that he might have missed. See, how Sean Connery's character uses his Grail diary is the core of the Grail method. Collect everything in one book and review it constantly. There is one rule, and it is a very important one, but we'll talk about it later. The Grail method legitimately helps you eliminate self-editing, bypass your inner critic, make new creative connections, filter out bad ideas from good ideas, and clarify your thinking. And it does all of this by doing one thing: removing friction. Look, I have tried pretty much every modern productivity system that you can name. Bullet journaling, second brains, Para, GTD. I've made so many Notion templates I could spit. But each and every one of those systems had only ever added to my process. It added friction. I'd have some idea, but I wouldn't know where to put it. Does it go in an inbox? Does it go in a future log, an ideas spread? Should I file that under projects or areas? Is that a someday maybe item, or should I time block an hour to go ahead and start working on it next? The friction of this killed my creativity. I wouldn't know where to put an idea, so I just put it nowhere and then it would just disappear forever. See, the Grail method eliminates this friction. When you have a thought that you want to jot down, you just jot it down in the next blank space of your notebook. If you find something loose that you want to save, put it in the pages of your book. Every bit of wisdom, every thought, every quote, every sketch, every single thing you even think that you might want to write down, you write down. Will you sometimes write down bad ideas or save things that you really don't need to save? Absolutely. But that's by design. See, the idea is to eliminate self-editing and bypass your inner critic. You don't question whether something is a good idea or a bad idea before you write it down. You don't question whether or not something is worth saving. It all gets put in the same place. One book. There are no spreads, there's no complicated filing structures. Hell, there's no organization of any kind. It all goes here. If that sounds chaotic and inefficient, it is. But that's a feature, not a bug. And trust me, it's been working for centuries. Leonardo da Vinci left behind over 6,000 pages of his personal notebooks. And if you only glanced at a few pages here or there, it's easy to imagine that these notebooks are well-organized masterpieces in their own rights. But they aren't, not even a little bit. Most pages are a disordered jumble, and da Vinci recognized this. In one of his manuscripts, he actually wrote, "This will be a collection without order, made up of many sheets which I have copied here, and I believe that before I am at the end of this, I shall have to repeat the same thing several times. And therefore, O reader, blame me not, because the subjects are many, and the memory cannot retain them, and say, this I will not write because I have already written it." I saved that quote in my own diary. See, da Vinci understood that attempting to be efficient and orderly in using his notebooks, attempting to organize them as he wrote, would only make him less likely to actually use them to avoid repeating himself. A notebook that you're afraid to use does you no good, but Then again, what good does a jumble of information do you? I mean, how could having your every thought crammed into a disorganized space ever be useful? Well, I'm glad you asked. That's where step 2 of the Grail method comes in. Constant review. You'll often hear the quote by David Allen that your brain is for having ideas, not for holding on to them. In Allen's GTD system, this quote results in lots of to-do lists. But see, I think the Grail method is a lot closer to the wisdom of Allen's quote. The whole point here is to externalize your thoughts and ideas, not to sort them out later, not even to save them or organize them, but simply to get them out of your brain and collected in one space that you can easily review. And that constant review is the most important step in this process. Like Henry Jones Sr. in The Last Crusade, carry your notebook with you everywhere. And when you have time, just flip through the pages. Dip in and read here and there and think more about what you've written. Pull out the loose pieces of paper that you've inserted. If you sketched in the book, look back over the sketches. Constant review is the key to the Grail method. But I want to be clear about something here. By review, I don't mean study. This isn't homework. You're not trying to memorize everything you've ever put in the book. See, this isn't an active process. Think of it like analog scrolling. Your notebook is now your feed. The reason that this is the most important step is that this is when what you've written becomes useful. That meaningful quote right next to that sketch, that story idea next to a philosophical thought, they start to mingle. You begin to make creative connections that you never considered before. When you separate ideas and information into separate files and folders and lists, you lose the connections between them. The Grail method removes those separations, allowing you to connect dots across disciplines and genres. If you've ever wondered how Da Vinci could be so prolific in his creative thinking, I genuinely believe that this is the answer. When you mingle anatomy and biology with physics, you begin to see how a man might fly. I am becoming more and more convinced every single day that the one thing being sucked out of us by modern productivity systems and AI agents is the ability to do work that is messy, inefficient, and creative. Work like thinking. The process of constantly reviewing your journal becomes externalized thinking. It becomes an almost literal second brain, not some Notion database filing system that's just filled with trivia, but an extra space to think. The inefficiency of flipping back and forth between the pages of your notebook encourages your brain to wander, to pause, to intermingle and make new connections. In other words, it mimics the way your brain naturally works. It also begins to naturally filter out the good ideas from the bad ideas. The constant review helps you to clarify your thinking. It allows your ideas time to percolate. These are my Grail diaries that I have filled over the last 4 years of testing this method for myself. This is the current one I'm on right here, and it's about full. I have written down so many ideas in my notebooks that I thought were really brilliant when I wrote them down, only to realize after some review that I actually didn't like them or disagreed with them. I've also written down plenty of things in these notebooks that seemed really mediocre at first, but slowly grew into ideas that really excited me. See, by writing down all of your ideas, you allow the good ones to rise to the top as you review. And yes, just because you wrote it down doesn't mean it's worth saving, but you can't know what's worth saving until you write it down. But I want to be clear about something here. While the idea is to put everything into your notebook and then review it later, the Grail method is not meant to act like the inbox in a bullet journal. We're not writing things down so that we can organize them later. It's not about organizing. As you fill up your notebook and you start on a new one, the things that are worth keeping make their way out into the world. They become your projects, like say a song or a story or a painting or a YouTube video. All of these orange tabs here, these are my notes that I started about this video. Notes I started taking nearly 3 years and 2 notebooks ago. The rest just stays behind. And that's a good thing. That's how it should be. Your current notebook is a representation of your thinking right now. Your old notebooks become kind of irrelevant over time. It's not that they aren't worth keeping. I mean, I put mine in a box, but you'll just find yourself drawn less and less to actually reviewing them. I mean, have you ever come across an old notebook from when you were a teenager and you just kind of cringed at what you wrote back then? It's kind of like that. Oh, actually, hang on. I need to grab something. Now, the Grail method doesn't use any complicated rules or filing structures because, well, it doesn't really need them. I mean, the process of reviewing serves as its own natural filter. Groupings and connections naturally form. What's useful rises to the top. What's worthless just sort of falls away. But remember when we discussed that one rule? Yeah, we need to talk about that. Oh, real quick, this video is a bit of a departure for me format-wise, so if you're finding it useful, informative, or, well, dare I say it, entertaining, would you mind clicking the like button down below? I'd appreciate it. Now, let's go talk about that one rule. Okay, look, I don't know if Da Vinci or Darwin or anyone else throughout history ever followed this rule. I fully admit that I made this rule up. It's my little addition to the method, and you are free to break it or ignore it, but I think you would do so at your own peril. The one rule is super important, and it is this. No to-do lists. None. Do not write your daily tasks in your notebook. This is where the Grail method differs the most from something like, say, bullet journaling. The Grail method is not about being more productive. I can't say that enough. It's not about being more productive, it's about being more creative. It's not about getting more done, it's about getting done things that are more meaningful to you. You can use post-it notes or note cards or scratch paper for your to-do lists and tuck them into the pages of your notebook to keep them with you throughout the day. I bring a pocket notebook with me. I make these, and so when they're full, I just throw them away and make another one. But whatever you do not write the to-do lists in the notebook itself. The reason for the one rule is that to-do lists are ephemeral. They are temporary. We don't need to save them. You don't need to remember that you bought milk 3 weeks ago. To-do lists will just serve to clutter up your thinking and your creativity. Keep them away from your creative thoughts. Write them on something that you can easily throw away once everything's been checked off. I can say that in the 4 years that I have kept my own Grail diary, I have seen a huge improvement in my creativity and in my output as an artist. This YouTube channel would absolutely not exist without the Grail method. So I hope that maybe this video has inspired you to try embracing a messier approach to creative productivity. And try keeping a notebook like this if you don't already. Now next week you'll get the full video of the Indiana Jones Grail diary build that you saw me working on in the background of this episode. Originally it was going to be a Patreon and YouTube members only video, but I thought it might be fun to post the whole video so that you can get a little bit of a sample of what you can find over on Patreon and the YouTube memberships, where, as a thank you for your support, you get access to special behind-the-scenes and members-only content, like the full video of the Grail Diary replica that you can watch next week. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble, and until next time, YouTube thinks that you should watch this video next. I'ma go eat spaghetti.